Hello, lacrosse friends, and welcome to a special NLL draft edition of Lacrosse Link, brought to you by Revive Hair Lounge in the heart of East City, an environmental salon that is providing great hair services. They're good for you and the planet. Today on this NLL draft edition, we speak to a couple of outstanding prospects for this 2022 NLL draft. Mathieu Gautier from Alberta and goaltender Brett Dobson. They're sure to be quite high selections in this draft. And then we move on to a full first round mock where I let you know who I think every team in that first round could take, how all the selections could play out as we look at the 23 picks in the first round of the 2022 National Lacrosse League entry draft. Enjoy, and you may agree, you may disagree, you can let us know. Either way, it's going to be fun to run through this 2022 mock draft.
Watched by Danby, a big pick from McGraw and another one. Back to McGraw. He's going to let it rip and scores. Liam McGraw from downtown.
Joining me on Lacrosse Link, a skyrocketing prospect in the 2022 National Lacrosse League entry draft, Mathieu Gauthier. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show this morning.
It's great to have you on and to talk about this. And I want to start off talking about the Minto Cup, because it's not like you just started playing lacrosse, but it really brought much greater exposure to you and your game. And I wanted to talk about what the experience was like, because it really brought a lot of attention to Alberta lacrosse. I feel like people were paying attention before. There have been a bunch of good players, the Harry Matsuokas and Brett Craigs and things coming out of Alberta for quite a while. But this is the first time an Alberta team has made it to the final of the Minto Cup, which is a big step. And it was quite an experience. You guys were so competitive. What was the Minto like for you this year?
I mean, yeah, it was a hell of an experience overall the whole weekend. For being the first, like you said, those names coming out of Alberta. So it was just about time that a team was skilled enough to make it to the finals and compete in the Minto Cup. And like you said, it's just now that the minors and Alberta are just kind of getting the recognition of that we can compete with the Ontario teams at the national level. So like our age group with that team, we've been playing this sort of lacrosse, our whole lives, like growing up. So it is fun to see that our work and it's getting recognized in the national level for sure.
And people who've been paying attention obviously are familiar that you and a whole bunch of your teammates that were on that team, but you and Team Alberta back in 2017 and 2018 won back-to-back midget national championships. And that, I feel like the first midget nationals you guys won really kind of shocked the lacrosse world, because that was something that hadn't happened. You guys came in and won that, and then won it again the next year. So it's not like it's a new thing to a bunch of you from this team and all the guys from Alberta who have been competing, like you said, at a very high level for a while.
Yeah, for sure. Like winning that first in 2017, that was pretty amazing experience as well. Almost up there with the Minto. But yeah, going down Ontario, and that was actually, in previous years I have gone to national tournaments, but that was the first year where we actually, we had Dane Doby and Todd Lorenz as our head coaches there, and they trained us pretty hard there to go down and bring back a championship, and that's what we did that summer.
So in the Minto this year, you basically played the game that you're known for playing, scored a bunch of goals, led the tournament in assists, but really captured a lot of attention, the team, but you specifically. And I don't think anybody knew, I'm not sure if you knew, going into the tournament that you were going to be declaring that you would be in the draft this year, because you have another year of junior remaining. First of all, did you know going into the draft, or did you decide as things progressed that you were going to enter the draft partway through the tournament?
Yeah, no, I actually just about a month before the tournament started, I went on their website and I just kind of did some searching there, and I saw that I could put myself into the draft. So I actually did sign up just before we went down to the tournament, before kind of our playoffs started. So gave me more motivation to get our team down to Minto so I can expose myself and our team for sure.
and great tournament. And obviously everyone is loving the mix of skill and grit. And is that just kind of the way you naturally play, or is that something you've thought about, like, hey, I need to be getting in there, I need to be opening space for my teammates, I need to be making things happen with more than just my stick, and really thinking about that blend? Or is that just kind of what it comes naturally?
Yeah, I'd say it comes more natural. Just I think with all the different sports I grew up playing, and since I've been flip-flopping hockey and lacrosse from winter to summer, it definitely comes natural. You know, when you go into games, you just want to play as hard as you can and help out as much as you can with the team, so you can hopefully come out on top at the end of the game.
How much of the buzz around the minors and yourself did you hear during the tournament? Because you are going to try to be, I would think, relatively insular, right? During a Minto Cup tournament where you're trying to focus on the task at hand, but you must have been hearing some of what was, people were talking about, and how excited people were getting about watching your game.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I've seen Twitter that my page filled with lacrosse when I was down there. It's pretty exciting seeing everyone cheering us on during the tournament, and yeah, it was pretty cool just to see all the buzz around Alberta during that week. It definitely did expose a minors team to expose Alberta that we showed us that we can compete down there. So.
Did you start hearing from NLL teams once everyone figured out, one, that you were eligible, that you'd entered the draft, and two, that you were playing so well at the Minto and really showing a game that should translate to the kind of player that a lot of teams are looking for with the the gritty game and the all-around game?
Yeah, I did get a few teams that reach out afterward the tournament finished here, once they for sure knew I declared for the draft. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm just pretty excited for this weekend here and see what happens.
Do you have any feel for what might happen? I mean, I feel like this draft is so up in the air after number one. It feels like so many guys could go in so many different orders. Do you have a sense of how it might play out?
I mean, I'd hope to go in the first round for sure. That would be a goal of mine. But just like to be able to know exactly what pick you're going, it's pretty hard to say right now, because it is a draft. Things can change at last minute, or they'll change your mind, take a different guy, or a trade will happen. So yeah, you never really know until your name gets called. So
what's your plan for draft day?
My plan for draft day? So I'm actually, I'm gonna head down there. So I'm leaving out of Regina here, I think at 5:30 Saturday, and then I'm meeting my parents down in Toronto.
Okay, and get over to the Corlew Center. I'm not familiar with the venue.
Yeah, I believe there we got to be there for 12:30 in the afternoon there, and then I think they'll find us a table and then say hi to a couple people, and then just wait for my name to be called up. Hopefully. You
got your suit ready? What are you sporting on the?
Yeah, I got my suit here. I actually went out and buy one of my last year, my suit pants, they actually ripped, so I had to go pants shopping the other day. So that was pretty fun.
How did it work out? You got a good pair, you're happy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So as you think about moving on to the National Lacrosse League, obviously a big step. And one of the things I talked to John Lintz about before the Minto Cup, he was saying, we just don't have, with only 4 teams in the league, and, there's going to be a variety of levels of play. You don't get the consistent quality of competition in Alberta that teams in Ontario with 11 teams, and there's always lots of good talent. You just don't get that quality of competition across the board. So then you come in and you guys improved, playing very well against good competition in the Minto. You're going to face the same kind of thing where, you played some very high caliber lacrosse in junior, but this is such a step up at the NLL where all the players are the guys who were best on their teams. How do you see the transition? What do you think is critical for you moving on to the professional ranks?
Yeah, I mean, definitely would be training, junior to professional, they're bigger, they're stronger and all of that. So definitely hit the gym here for sure. And also just experience just the older guys, see how they are, just how they hold themselves accountable and how they present themselves in the dressing room and everything. So it definitely would be a cool experience to be able to get that experience for sure. And that would definitely help me out with the transition.
Well, really looking forward to seeing when you're called. I think it's very up in the air. There's a pretty big range where you could go. I think you could go quite high, but you just never know, as you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Stage, right? So much can happen. So really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show, and wish you all the luck in your travels and in the draft and as you start to forge your National Lacrosse League career.
Yeah, thank you very much for getting me on here. It's been a pleasure.
Watched by Danby, a big pick from McGraw and another one. Back to McGraw. He's going to let it rip and scores. Liam McGraw from
Welcome
downtown.
to Lacrosse Link, the leading goaltender prospect for the 2022 National Lacrosse League entry draft, Brett Dobson. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, Stamper. I appreciate you having me on.
I want to talk a little bit to start about your Whitby career as a junior A goalie. You had a very strong career and obviously a storied program. And what was that? I guess what was it like overall? What was the experience? And how do you think that prepared you as you head in now to your NLL career?
Overall, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had a great group of guys I was able to play with, throughout my, 5-year career with the Warriors. Obviously, with COVID kind of happening, might have cost us that 2008 troop a chance of getting a Minto, but, the 2001 A troop took care of that for us and, brought that thing back to where it belongs. But, I had a great year there. My rookie year, I remember learning so much under, Joel Watson. Obviously, I was my goalie partner for, 3 years, and having, great players on the team and learning from them every year at practice and allowed me to get more comfortable and confident. Ultimately, it's for, up until that, kind of that COVID bubble tournament, right? I think that was the first time I really got to kind of showcase myself as a full-time starter. And I think that, for myself, that was big. I always kind of felt like, I could do it, and getting that chance to fully and finally do it was, was great. And I think I learned a lot from that. And I think it's going to carry into obviously what's next for me. Not playing any box this summer has been nice to let my body kind of, regroup and rest a bit as well and play more field, which is weird because usually, I'm used to playing field in the cold down here at St. Bonaventure, and box is usually in the summertime, so it's kind of getting flipped now. So these field games kind of carry into September, and the NLL obviously picking up in the wintertime, so that'll be a lot of fun. But ultimately playing under Willie for 5 years, and obviously playing with him through, all the way when I was 4 years old, all the way through minor. I learned a lot from him and had a great career, from when I was, 4 years old to 21 years old.
You mentioned Joel Watson, of course, is with the Rochester Nighthawks now, and you guys really did go back and forth a lot. I remember watching games where you just never knew who was going to be in between the two of you, and you'd pick each other up. Chances are, when you go to the NLL, most young goalies are back in that kind of situation where they're backing up or sharing. What does having had that experience in junior do to help you prepare for possibly having that role in the NLL as well?
I think it did a lot for me. Ultimately, as when you don't play in junior, you got to find other ways to help the team out. And I think for myself, I pride myself on being a great teammate and, picking guys up and giving little insights on things that I see, and just ultimately trying to be a glue guy, in that type of situation, because nobody wants to have a guy on the bench who's, kind of pouty, because it carries the whole vibe kind of down. So if you can kind of be that jolt of energy whenever the team needs you, or help them out in any sense, and that's something that, you add value for when you're not playing. I think guys that can add value ultimately bring a lot of things to the table for a team. And I think, everybody's got a role in the team, and you got to embrace it, whatever it is. So I think learning that obviously in junior, and, being able to be ready, especially with how box kind of goes, something that obviously is going to help me out down the line. I think, I still got a lot to learn in terms of what's going to happen with the NLL, and obviously the bigger nets and the spoons and smaller pads and all that kind of stuff. So I think that for me, having a guy that, who's going to help me mentor myself and obviously pass that knowledge down when I get to kind of that role, would be great for myself.
You mentioned St. Bonaventure's, where you played and where you're helping with a bit of coaching as you prepare for your NLL season to come. And that was maybe a bit of a surprise because it was a brand new program that you go to, and there with Coach Randy Mearns, who's obviously just a legend in his own time. And I was wondering why you picked St. Bonaventure's over an established program, why that was a good fit for you.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Stamper. I only had one offer to play Division I lacrosse coming out of high school. I want to kind of get that stuff taken care of early. And originally, I was kind of looking to go to school to be a physical education teacher. Both my parents are phys ed teachers. This was one of the programs that was transferable back to Canada, so it made perfect sense for me to kind of come down here. I was really keen on going to Canisius when Coach Mearns was there. Kind of fell in love with him, and then ultimately ended up taking the job down here. And for me, being the start of kind of a program that's brand new, being their first recruit, being their first kind of commit, kind of having that not necessarily face of the team, but, kind of being the guy that starts it all off was something that meant a lot to me. And be able to call this place home is something that, I've had the privilege of for the last 4 years. And I guess you can call it 4.5 years after I'm done here in the fall. But, I think that I want to be a part of something special. And I think, a lot of people talk about St. Bonaventure, they don't really know about it. But I think by the end of September 10th, you're going to see a lot more, people that are going to get their names called at this draft. They're from St. Bonaventure as well, not just myself, but we're going to have, about 3 or 4 other guys that'll be right up there, maybe 5 or 6. But, I think that this program's grown drastically. And I think it's ultimately a testament to what Coach Mearns has done, through the 4 years here, as well as the assistant coach that we've had in Gil Connors and Nico Capron, just kind of building the foundation and starting to get better recruits. And now you can kind of see the proof's going to be in the pudding. And I think that, when we get you guys kind of, again, called on that draft day, it's going to help, put more proof into what Coach Mearns preaches to these guys and, what they're kind of talking about. And Coach Mearns wants guys who want to have dreams to play professional lacrosse. And I think that for me, I knew that's what I really want to do when I was going through the recruiting process. And, I told them I had a bunch of goals I wanted to be, throughout my 4 years here. I guess it was kind of cut short a bit with the COVID stuff, but getting that opportunity to relive them and live them out is something that's been terrific. And he's helped me along the way there. And I think the relationship that I have with Coach Mearns is, something that really ultimately, drove me to kind of come to St. Bonaventure. And then ultimately when you get down here, it's a beautiful campus. And, basketball program's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to go watch those games. And ultimately one of the guys that's the biggest name, that came through here is Bob Lanier. Bob Lanier ultimately had the biggest shoe in the NBA until Shaq came along. He's not really well known now, but he passed away, last summer. So that was kind of sad to see, but kind of just like how tight knit and close and family kind of oriented St. Bonaventure is really cool. Like you can go into an airport wearing a St. Bonaventure men's lacrosse backpack and someone will say go Bonnies that went through that was alumni. So the alumni base is great. And, the fans are, terrific as well. And that's something that ultimately influenced my decision as well. Not only that, but, it being my only option, I took it. I wanted to run with it. So I want to make everybody else pay for not, taking a chance on me.
So necessity was kind of the mother of invention there, as your only option. But obviously things went very well. You're the top goalie in the NCAA this past season. You go on to get drafted very high in the PLL and go have your rookie season there. Now you're getting ready to be, I think, a very high draft pick in the National Lacrosse League draft. And I'm curious what you've heard, like what the process is like coming out and how, like, do all the teams call you? Is everyone asking about different things, like, or do you kind of sit back and wonder what's going to happen?
Yeah, so I kind of sit back and wonder what's really going to happen. I know Coach Mearns does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes for us, for a bunch of guys that he's got out of the program. They're going to the draft, but I had a couple of teams reach out and make phone calls. I remember, I think the first one I got when I was in Birmingham and in Alabama with the Sixers stuff, and then after that I had received another one the following weekend after that, and then it kind of died down because both those kind of teams that called me were kind of right after each other. So. I think that obviously it can be stressful because, I haven't really heard much recently, but at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. People are trying to figure stuff out. And, you go from there. So I'm sure as we get kind of closer to Saturday, I'll have more of an idea of what's going to happen. Not that, I don't really know yet. I kind of have a good idea of what's going to happen right now. And, it'll be a good situation for myself. But I think that, ultimately, if some GMs, I think, have an idea of what's going to happen, they might not waste their time and call you right away. So a lot of the GMs do their due diligence and kind of follow up and see, hey, are you in the draft? Are you eligible? Are you this or that? Just to follow up. And then we'll send out some questionnaires. But yeah, it hasn't been too hectic. My phone's been pretty quiet, so I can't complain about that. It helps me focus on a lot of other things.
Yeah, you got lots going on. You mentioned another thing I wanted to talk about a bit, the Sixers tournament, the World Games down in Birmingham, Alabama. What a great performance for you and the Canadian team winning that gold medal. And what was that experience like? And what is the whole process of becoming part of Canada's national team over the last couple of years? Because you've played in a variety of tournaments or kind of weekend gatherings, right? With Canada and with Coach Mearns.
Yeah, so it's been very interesting. I mean, the first one actually happened before COVID. We did that fall class against the States, and I was only a sophomore in college, and not a lot of people really knew kind of who I was. But I ended up going out there and I did a really good job. And I think for myself, when I kind of look back and kind of saw what happened there, I said this could be something I can kind of do long term. And obviously that was a goal I had, not only to play in the PLL and the NLL, but I want to play for Team Canada. And I think that seeing what I could do kind of that international level and stage, that fall in 2019, 2020, something that, meant a lot to me. And then obviously COVID hit, so we didn't really have anything else after that. But getting a taste of kind of what it is to, play at the next level in the field was something that allowed me through COVID to kind of stay motivated and kind of go through a lot of things. I remember our last game of the year at Bonnie's was probably one of my worst in my career. I think I had like a 10% save percentage and dropped my stuff down below 50. So I remember looking at that number every day during COVID and just being like, hey, Dad, I need you to hit some tennis balls at me to kind of get me going and stuff like that. But, that process was a lot of fun. And then obviously getting to Birmingham, this kind of, this summer was great. It was interesting. Obviously, Wardo was on the team as well, and he happened to break his thumb literally the week before we went to Birmingham. So, kind of got a phone call from Brody. He's like, hey, you ready to rock? You're going to be our guy going forward. Obviously, you're here. You're a guy. You're not just a Band-Aid. You're going to be a stitch this problem shot, and you're going to be here to fix things and take care of business. And you're ready for this, and kind of, introduce yourself to the international lacrosse world as well through that kind of situation. So, having that opportunity to do that was really, really fun. And, I had a great group of guys. Obviously it's only 12 guys, right? So, team meetings, like, oh, I guess we do have everybody, even though you think there's a bunch of guys missing. So, the whole experience in Birmingham was great. The team culture and team vibe was unbelievable. Eddie Como did a great job organizing the whole event. Probably my favorite part of it, we had a bunch of scooters. There was like these electric scooters you could rent, and that was our way of travel through Birmingham. We would ride 12 deep to go get food. And I think the camaraderie with the guys is something that, we were only there for such a short time, but I think a lot of us are bonded together by that. And obviously, getting the chance to, beat the wheels off the Americans is a lot of fun. And, we look forward to kind of doing that next summer as well. And, in Los Angeles for the real stuff, because, there's going to be everyone that's saying that it was a fake championship, and that, hey, that's okay. At the end of the day, it's still a gold medal that's around, Canada's next. And we're going to be looking forward to that and using that as motivation for, the real one in LA.
Last thing is, as we go into the draft, I know I've been hearing that teams have been trying to trade up because they're interested in getting you. They see you as a long-term franchise goalie, which throws some question marks into where you might go, how things might wind up playing out. And you said you feel like you have a pretty good idea. Obviously, you can't divulge too much, but what's your process going to be on Saturday as the draft starts? I assume you're going to watch and just be ready for whatever happens.
Yeah, so I think the kind of process will be is make sure I catch my flight to head down to Washington first, because we got to play on Sunday with the Archers for our semifinals against the Chaos. So that'll be a lot of fun to see that. But in addition, I think that making sure I land on time. I'm supposed to land before 2, so hopefully I'll be able to land there. And then ultimately, hopefully I'll have a couple of American guys that have, a data plan on their phone to be able to watch the start of it and then keep things up to date. But thought process through it, I'm going to kind of sit down, hopefully maybe be able to watch it with a bunch of the guys on the team that are kind of in there, because I think that, obviously they're lacrosse guys as well, but, I want to be able to kind of see where it is. And obviously getting drafted is a tremendous honor. I could, remember getting drafted in the PLL, and that was very nerve wracking. And obviously I got the, experience that with all my teammates at St. Bonaventure that kind of knew that was my goal. So being around my Archers teammates, being able to do that is something that will mean a lot to me. I think that obviously we got a really close, tight knit group in that locker room. And I think we got a lot of guys that we know would be happy for me for to be able to kind of accomplish that. But it's just going to be kind of pick by pick, kind of see what happens. I know obviously there's going to be some trades kind of coming up soon, hopefully moving some things around that can kind of happen. But you never know, right? I have an idea and things could change. So a lot of things are on the fly. So it's just taking it one kind of, again, I wouldn't say minute at a time, but one kind of day at a time as we lead up to that. And then obviously go pick by pick from there. And then, see where it is. Then ultimately, once that kind of is done, enjoy the moment, do kudos to wherever I land. And then obviously I got to focus on what's going to happen this weekend of the playoffs with the Archers. Then after the PLL season is done, it's going to be right back in the box mode. So that's kind of how I'm taking it from here. And then ultimately just kind of having fun with it. I mean, you only got to get drafted once really, right? But I get the opportunity to do it twice, and, I'm going to enjoy it. And, I'm going to be excited for wherever I land, and, hopefully be able to make a great impact on that team, either on the floor, off the floor, within the locker room, whatever my role is, I'll be, prepared for it.
Really appreciate the time. It's great getting to catch up. Certainly wish you good luck with Archers this weekend, and before that, wherever you may land in the NLL draft this year.
Thanks, Stamper. Appreciate it.
Here we are, ready to roll with the first pick, the Rochester Nighthawks, on the clock on the Lacrosse Link 2022 NLL mock draft. And this may be the only fairly easy pick of the draft. The Nighthawks got this pick in a trade at the expansion draft for the Las Vegas Desert Dogs. And to me, Thomas McCombie is the clear choice. Often, with high-end prospects, you're looking at the glitzy plays that make them stand out. But fundamentals, as we all know deep down, are really the cornerstone for success in professional sports. I feel like McCombie is a good example of doing the fundamentals well over and over, leading to sustained success. He's a clear top choice in this draft. It'll be exciting for Rochester to see him come in next year. He was at Vermont. He's going to graduate at Virginia. He'll be ready for 2024 and a big addition to the Nighthawks. Second, the Vegas Desert Dogs. After that trade with Rochester, where the Nighthawks jumped up just one spot, but things are already getting tricky here at pick number 2. Deshaun Williams, the coach and GM, looked to one of the stud defenders as he builds his expansion team. I've heard rumors they may even take Brett Dobson here. Dobson was the goalie for the Whitby Warriors, where Williams is the head coach. I don't think that's likely. I think it's a bit early. I don't know that they go with Dobson. They have Landon Kells already from the expansion draft, a very good young goalie that you would think is their plan for the franchise goalie of the future. But you never know. Having 2 good young goalies is a good thing. I think Alex Simmons, a highly talented player who really shone in the MSL playoffs, is the likely pick here. He's been near the top of the draft board for this draft for years. The Coburg Kodiaks, where he was playing, really pushed the Six Nations Chiefs in the first round of the MSL playoffs. It was only a 5-game series, but we had an overtime game. All the games were close. Coburg gave the Chiefs all they could handle, and Simmons was clearly their leader. He was taking his game up to another level in that series. I think Simmons is the guy for the Desert Dogs. Then we go to the Vancouver Warriors, sitting at 3. You might think, well, Will Johansson, big, solid defender they could really use, but I think with Troy Cordingley coming in from Ontario to coach the Warriors, who's added to the team this year, he is going to know exactly what Zach Deacon can do for a lacrosse team. Deacon is strong, quick, smart, has the Orangeville pedigree. He is a former OJLL Defender of the Year, a very, very good player. Not the biggest defender, but very solid. And I think accordingly knows what Deacon can do, what he can bring to the Warriors. At 4, the Albany Firewolves with the first of 3 picks in this first round. And we're going to go, maybe mix it up a bit, Jason Knox. At this point, there's so many players that could go anywhere in this range from sort of 4 through the late teens. And it's really a beauty in the eye of the beholder. What do they bring specifically to the table that you want on your club? The former Burlington Chief and current Ohio State Buckeye is one of the players that they're going to look to now that they've had a series of trades to reconfigure the offense. I think they add him to that group that is now in place. He is going back to school, but when he comes, he's going to bring a mix of grit and skill that can help take an offense to the next level. Many of these players, by the way, are going back. All 4 of the players that we have so far going in the mock are going back to school. 14 of 23 overall in the mock draft, as you'll see, are going back to school for the extra year afforded by the response of the NCAA to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our 5th player also going back to school for another year for the Panther City Lacrosse Club, defender Owen Grant. With 4 of their 5 picks last year in the draft, the PCLC took forwards. 3 of those, Jonathan Donville, Jack Hanna, and Caleb Kuber, who can play transition, was probably a forward, went back to school, be joining the team this year for camp. So it seems to make sense with all those forwards coming into a team that has some pretty solid talent up front to make sense to go the obvious route seems to be defense. Having Grant available makes that work well. He's big, he's strong, he's hard to play against, and he made quite an impression in the OJLL. He's been a very solid college player. I see PCLC and Owen Grant. At 6, okay, Saskatchewan Rush. It gets really tricky. Seems like everyone is thinking Brett Dobson. That's possible. It could happen. Derek Keenan, of course, his ties to Whitby would be very familiar with Dobson. He knows that he's a good goaltender. They could trade the pick if Derek Keenan thinks that that would help the team. I am inclined to think that if they keep it, that they will go with Mathieu Gautier. He's the kind of player who can help a rush team that has lots of skill, but could use some more sandpaper up front. And Gautier, we all saw what he did in the Minto Cup. We've heard him talk about what he feels he'll bring to the NLL, what that Minto Cup run was like. And Gautier is a guy who has skyrocketed up draft lists and could land as high as 6 with the Saskatchewan Rush. We're back to Albany. They picked 4. We have them taking Jason Knox. They're now picking at 7. We're going to do the other end of the floor. And I mentioned this name earlier, Will Johansson. Having picks, they had pick 8 in this draft. With the trades they made in the offseason, they now go to having 4 and 7. That allows them to take a shot on a kid that head coach and GM Glenn Clark would be very familiar with from Clark coaching the Nanaimo Junior A Timbermen in the BCJLL this past summer, and his son Taggart playing for the Senior A Timbermen in Nanaimo. So he saw Will Johansson, a teammate of Taggart's, playing for the Timbermen, and everyone who sees Johansson play is impressed with his sturdy defense, his ability as a young defender to take on top offensive threats and do a really good job of minimizing the impact that they have. So I think Johansson fits very well here. Again, so many ways that this draft could play out, but this is a very logical move. Next, we go to the New York Riptide at 8, and I have them taking Cam Wires from the Toronto Beaches. He's a Loyola player as well. The Riptide, last year as a young team, were one of the top offensive teams in the league with Jeff Teat and Callum Crawford and Connor Kiernan and so much. And they've added Riley O'Connor to the offense in a trade with Albany. There's a lot of offensive firepower. What they really need is to add defense. Wires is steady. He's reliable. Jim Veltman would be familiar with him from their connections with the Beaches. And I think Wires is kind of an under-the-radar guy a little bit because he's not a big flashy player, but he is the kind of player you can help build a defense around. Panther City Lacrosse Club coming up at 9, and I would think they'd be pretty happy if they see Dylan Watson available at this pick for them. His stock was already high after his Orangeville career, helping them win the Minto Cup back in 2019, the last time it was played before this season. But a strong rookie season in the WLA with the Coquitlam Adanacs reinforced he's got a bright future in the NLL. Of course, he's following in the footsteps of his father, Hall of Famer Bob Watson. Of course, his dad, Bob, a goalie. Dylan playing up front, very different role, but he is definitely looking forward to a strong NLL career. Calgary Roughnecks at 10. You got to be thinking they were watching Watson still be on the board and hoping he might just fall to them. He would fit very well, I think, with that club. Van Scheppen isn't as polished as Watson. He hasn't had as much time. He's a bit younger in his career, but he has size, he's got skill, and he'll get there in time. He is a very good young prospect. At 11, the Georgia Swarm will probably be quite excited if Brett Dobson is available there for them. Very interesting. Some people think Dobson's going to go higher. People think teams are looking to trade up to make sure they can get him ahead of where they perceive that he's going to go. And it's interesting because not a lot of goalies are taken really high in the draft. People saying he could go in the top 6 or 7. Well, there have been 4 goalies taken in the top 7 picks of the NLL draft in the last 18 years or more. And their careers have turned out pretty well. So if you're invested, if you believe that a goalie is going to be a long-term solution, investing a high pick is worth it. Those goalies, Evan Kirk and Dylan Ward, were both taken very high and both were named Goalie of the Year in the NLL. They received that award 5 years after they entered the league. Matt Vince is another, and he also won NLL Goalie of the Year 5 years after he entered the NLL draft. Now, he also has won 7 more Goalie of the Year honors arguably the greatest of all time. We've just talked about another one of the all-time greats in Bob Watson. You throw Dallas Elliott in the mix, but Vince is right up there in that conversation. But one of the things you look at, if a team is taking Dobson, they can expect he will be a long-term solution. But also remember, for all of those goalies, it was 5 years from the year of their draft until they were named the NLL Goalie of the Year. It is not generally with goaltenders something where someone comes in and immediately is a franchise goalie. Dylan Ward was very fast to reach that point. Christian Del Bianco, a second-round pick by Calgary, pretty quick to get to that point. But it does take a while for full goalies to reach full maturity. So if you're thinking Dobson will step in and be a savior, probably not right away. Can he be a long-term solution? Absolutely. If you're wondering who the fourth goalie was, and you probably are, the fourth goalie taken in the top 7 picks of the NLL draft within the last 18 years, Paul Dawson, who of course shifted famously to defense with San Jose, and went on to have, and still is having, a very strong career as a defender in the NLL. At 12, the Halifax Thunderbirds. Now, not many teams would be willing to pick Deoshundade Macomber this high. Largely not because of his talent, but because he hasn't played a ton. He's moved around to various teams, has just not had a chance to settle in, find a groove, and really find sustained success. He had a great Minto Cup run with the Victoria Shamrocks back in 2019, and this year he had a very good season with the Nanaimo Timbermen. He was their 5th leading scorer, and the talent is obvious. The thing is, I don't think Kurt Steyer's is most GMs. We see him go off of the kind of conventional board quite often in the draft and in a lot of the moves he makes around his lacrosse team. And many times it pays off for him. Obviously not always, but Macomber, with his talent, his high ceiling, I can see him being a logical pick for Kurt Steyer's and the Halifax Thunderbirds. The Buffalo Bandits have back-to-back picks. And they have such a strong roster already, talent up and down the roster. They've just come off a championship series appearance. They're anticipated or expected to be continuing to compete for championships. So they have the luxury of looking at players coming back. They have the luxury of looking maybe at a different player that might not be ideal for another team, but might be a risk-reward situation where they can take that chance and hope to reap the risk. We're going to start with them, though, with a late bloomer who might step into the Kyle Buchanan role down the road. That's Taggart Clark. I mentioned his dad, Glenn, earlier. I don't think he's going to go to Albany. Everyone's saying, oh, of course, Glenn's going to take him. He's going to go to Albany. I don't know that everyone wants to play for their father. I think a lot of guys like to forge their own identity. And it'll be interesting to see whether Albany does take a swing at Taggart, or I don't think he'll be there for them at 17, because I think Buffalo takes him at 13. The family number is 13, and it's a lucky number for the Bandits as they get Taggart Clark to come back next year after his final season at Robert Morris and join the club that is already deep and talented and try and step in and keep restocking the cupboard. And then at 14, again, they're playing with house money, the Bandits. They've got a loaded roster coming off that championship series. They've got Thomas Weisen coming in on the left side from last year's first-round talent up and down the roster. They can take a swing on a guy who didn't play this summer, but has already shown, and that would have helped his stock for sure, but he's already established he's an electric talent. He can make a difference at either end of the floor. Kanan Francis, another legacy player. His father, Brandon, was an NLL player for years. Kanan's got a lot more talent, but he gets his mind for the game from his father, who has gone on to become a very good coach for young players. Brandon Francis, one of the tougher players in the history of the NLL. Kanan's more about the skill game, but they think the game a similar way, and I think Francis might be a very interesting addition. Next up, the team that conquered the Buffalo Bandits, who had the last 2 picks in the NLL Championship Series, the defending champion Colorado Mammoth. I've got them taking Austin Madronic from the Victoria Shamrocks and Harvard. He is a grit and skill guy. Plays off ball, but he can score. The kind of player who can be overlooked by casual observers, but is really appreciated by his teammates, his coaches. Colorado does, even though they are a championship team, they need to add some depth. They had a great run, but they probably want to add some depth. And Madronic fits that bill as a guy who can help make the players around him better, and he's available to come this year. At 16, Las Vegas is back on the clock. I have them taking Ty Kurtz from the Coburg Kodiaks in MSL. Didn't get to play this year because of a minor injury, but he is healing nicely and will be back at Delaware. He tends to get a little overlooked, but he was very productive in Junior A with the Kitchener-Waterloo Braves. He had a good start to his senior career in the MSL Classic season, the shorter season in 2021. He is talented, consistently produces, is passionate about the game. He I think will be a good pick to come in and add some production down the road. At 17, a player who is available right away, and what a summer, what a season of growth for Tyler Davis. We're going to show you the goal he scored at the World Juniors. The goal. It is spectacular. The fact that he even tried that play, going around the back, one hand between the legs, top corner, is emblematic of the rising confidence that saw him make huge leaps with the Six Nations Arrows this year, where he went from being a real depth guy, a down the roster guy, to being their leading scorer this summer and having a great season for them. And then again, where he was a depth player for Canada, or for Canada East at the 2021 World Juniors. This year, he goes back, he's playing for Canada, he is the captain and a key contributor on offense. He exploded this year in his 20-year-old season, showed he's got something to offer NLL teams, and he decided to enter the draft. And it's going to be interesting to see where he goes, how quickly he can start contributing at the NLL level. He certainly showed a knack for improvement. He's worked hard to try and keep getting better. Be fun to see what he does as he enters his NLL journey. At 18, I would think that the Las Vegas Desert Dogs would be very happy to see Jake Saunders fall to them here at 18. Expansion teams need to add talent, and to me, Saunders the best player available in my mock draft, the way it's played out. Again, things are going to go very differently, but if he's here, he's a reliable defender, makes good decisions, good team guy, good leader. Jake Saunders, I think, tends to be a little overlooked, but people who really know that he is very good and would be a great addition. Buffalo is back on the clock, just a handful of picks after they made their last pair of picks. If they hang on to this, how do we resist giving them a very good player in Dylan Robinson of the Toronto Beaches? Junior A was just at the Minto Cup. He's a guy who was a hockey player, really focused on hockey. He's now shifted that focus to lacrosse. And the cool thing, why can't we resist? His two brothers, Brandon and Justin, are both on the Bandits roster. 3 Robinsons all on the roster. Who knows how everything would shake out at camp, but they would enter with the 3 of them together, and that would be pretty fun. And Dylan may just wind up being the best of them. He has not played a lot of lacrosse the last few years while he focused on OHL hockey. He is very good. He's gritty. He's got an edge, and he's got another year of junior to go to really solidify himself as a top defender. And he is probably ready to go in and take a role in the NLL. If not, there's a lot of upside for him down the road. And it'll be interesting to see how that one comes along. We're getting near the end of the first round. We're back to Georgia. And if they did take Brett Dobson earlier, they are still going to need defense. That is, when you look at their roster, you think, they need to add some defense. Probably would love to get a lefty, but really at this point, the top defenders that are available are righties, the way my mock is played out. And there are a bunch of Shamrocks, Victoria Shamrocks defenders, who helped them get to the Minto Cup this year. They're well thought of by scouts, GMs, a very solid group. They play steady defense. They're just reliable. They're tough. It's just a really nice group. Cameron Lum sits at the top of that list for many observers. Looks like he can move quickly into playing the same steady role he did for Victoria for an NLL team. Back to Panther City Lacrosse Club, a compensatory pick that they got from Albany. And with Rochester's pick being just a handful down the line, people wonder, hey, would the Nighthawks try to make a move and get the son of their head coach, Mike Hazen, who is also Austin's head coach with the Peterborough Lakers as they head into the Mann Cup. Austin is a hard and willing worker on offense. He's got the skill to occasionally take over a game, but he's mostly happy to play the supplementary role, to go set picks, to grind, to work really hard, to make his teammates better, give them more chances. That's how he wins them over. The teammates really like him, and he does have the skill and grit to play a solid role and would be a great value at 21 here. Now we're at 22 and the San Diego Seals. So let's look last year. Patrick Shumay was in the draft. He was coming off having had a very serious knee injury that kept him out. Between that and the pandemic, he was out of the game for quite a while. Was coming back. He had his pedigree already set. Everyone knew he was a good defender. He'd been a top defender in BC. They took him 9th last year. He had a great rookie season, looks really primed for success. Exploded with a bunch of scoring in the playoffs where he just was on fire. Like, it was a real breakout for him. But he was very good all season. So, would San Diego go back to that well? Could the Seals strike gold from the same vein 2 years in a row? I'm talking about them taking Brian Robb, who was the Victoria Shamrocks captain in 2019, when they also went to the Minto Cup and got to the finals. He was a really key contributor to that. Then he suffered a serious injury to his quadricep that, combined with the pandemic, kept him out of the game for an extended time. He says he's back, he's stronger, he's quicker, and he's ready to play. He understands he has to prove himself at a camp. He knows there's not much he can do until he can get there. He is just looking forward to a chance to do that. I feel like San Diego might be a good place for him to have that opportunity. We're at the final pick of this first round. Thank you so much, Lacrosse friends, for being with us, for listening, for watching, letting me know what you think. I'm on Twitter at StampLax. You can hit me up and let me know if you think I'm crazy for these picks. Let me know if you think they're great. Let me know any others that you would like to suggest. Let me know. Hit me up. We will wrap up this first round with the Philadelphia Wings, and they, I feel, could do quite well taking Chris Fake, who we all thought was going to be in the draft last year. He actually did get drafted, even though the league did come out with a statement a couple days before the draft saying he's not eligible because with the rules in Ivy League players, things were a little different. He did not enroll for the 1 year at Yale, so he wound up not being eligible for the draft last year. He was highly rated. He is in the draft this year. He's going back to school. He's actually going to Notre Dame this year, but he has box experience playing for Blue Star Lacrosse. I've seen the video of him playing there. He is legit. He can play the box game. He'll have some adjustments to make, obviously, as any player coming into the NLL would, but there is a box background for him. The Wings have shown they're comfortable picking American players. Some things have worked out for them. They didn't pick Matt Rambo, but they did bring him in. He's been pretty good. They've got Trevor Baptiste, who they feel very strongly about as their face-off guy. So obviously not they don't shy away from taking the Americans. And Chris Fake is a 4-time All-American at Yale. He is an outstanding player, and he is the kind of guy who can come in. He's a great character guy. I think that taking Fake would be a really good move for Philadelphia to wrap up the first round of the National Lacrosse League entry draft, and that will wrap up the Lacrosse Link 2022 NLL entry draft mock draft. Thanks so much for being with us. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, hit me up on Twitter, let me know, and we'll see how it all plays out at the draft in Toronto.